bilingual dictionaries, before I go to bilingual dictionaries, generally about dictionaries, what we can say is that dictionaries are windows on the world. A typical expression used often is the word and the world. The word is our way of getting at or accessing the world. So dictionaries come in different forms. There are different categories, but I think for our purpose, we need to look at monolingual and bilingual dictionaries and their definitions. The monolingual dictionary uses the same language for the words and their definitions. So the entry word will be in the language. Let's say in Assamese, we have a word entry, and then it will be explained in elaborate terms, exemplified, and so on, and its different senses will be distinguished. So that is the scope of the monolingual dictionary, and it is typically aimed at providing the user and learner of the language with the lexical resources and elaborations on the lexical resources of the language concerned. On the other hand, what is a bilingual dictionary? Well, the basic purpose of a bilingual dictionary is to coordinate with the lexical items of one language those lexical units of another language which are equivalent in their lexical meaning. This is a definition given by Zagustar, an eminent expert on lexicography. Now, there is a kind of asymmetry in the languages in a bilingual dictionary. Now, typically, we think of bilingual dictionaries as having two languages, but the two languages are not at par. So I have tried to elaborate the point, which will be again relevant at the end when we take up the alignment between bilingual dictionaries and the NEP. There's an asymmetry in the languages in a bilingual dictionary in terms of status. So the L1 is the user's mother tongue or home language. These are expressions that are to be found frequently occurring in the NEP. Then there is the L2, which is typically the user's second language, which could be the either the state language if the user is a minority language speaker, like let us say in Assam situation, I can talk about the Rabhas or the Boros as L1 users of the mother tongue. So that is the home language, whereas for them L2 would be either Assamese or English, depending on which language they decide to have as their second language. So if Assamese is the second language, then English would be the third language for some groups, but for other groups, they would prefer to have English as the second language and Assamese as the third language. So as you can see immediately that there is a kind of complex situation already happening, because in the lineup of languages, Hindi has still not come, and there are other languages that we might want to include, and the context of the three language formula will come up briefly as we discuss things. So in terms of status, then the L1 is more familiar to the speaker, to the user of the language, whereas the L2 is the language that is being learned. So in terms of users command, the L1 is a language where there is native command of the learner, whereas for the L2, the learners, depending on the levels, it could be a beginning learner or an intermediate learner or an advanced learner. So basically, in terms of competence, proficiency, there's this difference. And users' mode of use of the L1 and L2 is also something where there's a difference in the status of the languages. So if you look at in fact, there is a column which is redundant in the first table. We'll just ignore that and move on to the next. So users' mode of use of L1 and L2 in terms of direction, that is, in terms of communicative function, you see the one segment of a bilingual dictionary is to move from L1 expressions, from L1, that is from concepts or meanings expressed in L1 to expressions, that is vocabulary and other, that is words and other expressions in L2. So the movement is from L1 to L2, and basic communicative function is speaking and writing. That is, these are productive functions of language, productive skills. That is, when a person using, let's say, Hindi, who has Hindi as the mother tongue or home language, wants to express herself in speech or in writing, she would proceed from, she would find out the word, let's say, what is a certain word in English. So cha-cha, for example, would be the entry word, and then from cha-cha, then in English, of course, it will be uncle, but again, there would be other elaborations like father's younger brother, etc. And so from the familiar to the unfamiliar or relatively unfamiliar, that is one segment. The other segment is for expressions, moving from expressions in L2 to their meanings represented in L1. So that is a movement from L2 to L1. So listening and reading as receptive functions are relevant here. So examples are in an English Hindi dictionary, the segment, the English Hindi segment of the bilingual dictionary. So as you can see, typically a bilingual dictionary has these two segments, L1 to L2, and which is geared towards the speaker or the learner or user moving from the home language to the second language, and the other segment is for the learner moving from the second language to the home language. For example, if he or she is reading something, then cannot understand a word. Okay, what does nascent mean? Then the meaning would be given in Hindi. Or of course, this is just one scenario. There may be, as we know right now, as I'm involved in the dictionary work for Assamese, that is English Assamese dictionary, Oxford's compact dictionary. There we have the meanings specified in English as well as in Assamese. So it's a double take, as it were. So this asymmetry in languages, in the languages of the bilingual dictionary, is an issue that will come up later in the context of what we will discuss of the NEP provisions suggested for for embedding multilingualism in our educational initiatives.